Why do you tremble at the shadow of poverty? Is it the hollow ache in your belly you truly fear, or is it the cold, sharp blade of a neighbor's disdain? You must realize that human nature is as fickle as the wind and as treacherous as the sea. Men will bend their knees until they touch the dust when your coffers overflow with gold, yet they will be the first to cast stones when your pockets find only air. To be poor is not merely to lack bread, it is to be invisible to the powerful and a footstool for the arrogant. Cast aside the hollow jests and painted promises of the jesters who preach quick riches for a pittance. They are but clowns performing for a world of fools. I offer you no comfort, only a bitter drought of reality. Wealth is the solitary shield that allows you to walk through the piazza without the weight of the world's mockery. The man of substance buys a mask of respect, however artificial it may be, but the man of nothing receives only the venom of sincere pity, and in the brutal architecture of power, to be pitied is to be already entombed. Etch this truth into your mind before we descend further into the darkness. Money does not bring freedom. It only brings the right to choose which master you shall serve and which enemy you shall suffer. Do not be deceived by the songs of the poets. Money is the mercenary that fights for whoever commands it with the most ruthless hand. While the fool squanders his gold to purchase a fleeting moment of leisure, the wise man amasses it as a bulwark against the arrows of a cruel and indifferent fate.
Chapter 1. Money is a weapon, not a reward. Understand this. The world is a wilderness of predators, and your assets are not the fruits of hard work to be tasted. They are the muscles of your survival. To treat money as a reward for good behavior is the philosophy of a servant. The prince views it as enemy territory that must be conquered, fortified, and defended against the endless raids of fortune. You do not accumulate to enjoy the softness of a silken bed. You accumulate to possess the steel required to dominate your environment. While the fool seeks the warmth of the sun, the wise man gathers the fuel to survive the winter that is surely coming. Observe the common man, for he is a study in folly. The moment his income rises, his discipline falls, and he upgrades his life until he is once more a slave to his own appetites. He mistakes a larger cage for a larger kingdom, spending his gold on hollow luxuries that wither as soon as they are touched. A true prince knows that consumption is the slow poison of an empire. He does not buy status from those he despises. He builds a financial moat so deep that no enemy can cross it. The weak man uses his gold to decorate the rot of his own decay, while the strong man uses it to reinforce the majesty of his fortress. History teaches us that no principality stands without its own arms, and in this modern age, your capital is your only loyal soldiery. Money has no soul. It is a mercenary that fights with ruthless efficiency for whoever commands it with the most iron will. If you do not exercise the discipline to command your gold will inevitably desert you to serve the enemy that will one day strike you down. A prince who neglects the art of financial warfare will find himself unarmed in the face of ruin, for there is no proportion between the man who is armed with capital and the man who is naked of it. As we move from the weapon to the shadow, heed this warning on the nature of men. Be wary of blind generosity,
For he who seeks to buy loyalty with an open hand will be the first to be betrayed when the purse runs dry. It is a safer course to let men fear your poverty than to let them love your kindness. Men love according to their own fickle whims, but they fear according to the prince's resolve. Therefore, build your empire upon that which you control, not upon the shifting sands of another's gratitude.
Chapter 2. The Illusion of Status. Substance versus Shadow. The world is a stage crowded with actors who wear the mane of a lion but possess the heart of a timid sheep. You must learn to distinguish between virtual status, the hollow spectacle designed to dazzle the vulgar, and real status, which is the cold, silent capacity for control. He who seeks the applause of the crowd becomes their servant, for he depends on their fickle breath to sustain his height. But he who seeks control over resources becomes their master, for they must orbit his gravity whether they love him or no. Spectacle is the weapon of the desperate. Control is the fortress of the sovereign. Observe the modern trap, more subtle and enduring than the iron manacles of old, the architecture of debt. The system does not wish to destroy you, it wishes to manage you, keeping you in a state of perpetual dependence through the lure of shiny trifles. You borrow the future to purchase the admiration of people you do not even like, shackling your hands with credit while you believe you are dressing for success. This is not a lifestyle. It is a subscription to financial slavery, where the interest you pay is the tax on your own vanity. Consider the sharp divide between the wise and the wretched. The wise man hides his power beneath a simple cloak, while the pauper displays his wealth upon a foundation of debt. To broadcast your gains is to invite the envy of the powerful and the daggers of the desperate. A prince who displays his treasury tells his enemies exactly where to strike. A prince who conceals his substance keeps them guessing and fearful. True nobility of mind seeks the reality of the key, not the glitter of the robes. Adopt the strategy of the fox to survive the wolves of envy. There is great profit in appearing weaker than you are, for it lulls your rivals into a fatal sloth and diverts the tax of the jealous. However, while your exterior remains unassuming, your hands must never let go of the substance of power, the capital, the alliances, and the strategic detachment that allow you to jiangdan with decisive cruelty when the moment of fate arrives. Let your enemies be deceived by the shadow you cast, while you solidify the real beneath their very feet. Do not chase the phantom of reputation, for vanity is a mistress that will leave you bankrupt and broken. Heed this oracle. Status is but a shadow. If you chase it, it will flee. If you grasp the substance, power, and capital, the shadow will of its own accord kneel at your feet. He who owns the fortress does not need to shout from the battlements to be known. Focus your will on the acquisition of the real, and the world will inevitably grant you the status you no longer care to seek.
Chapter 3. The Necessary Cruelty of Financial Governance. A prince who allows emotion to lead his purse invites his own ruin. He must understand that to be kind to a reckless relative is often to be cruel to the very blood of his empire. You will encounter those of your own household who beg for assistance to cover the tracks of their own sloth. You must meet their tears with the silence of stone. Understand that a soft heart is a leak in a fortress, and a prince who cannot say no to a friend will soon have no means to defend himself against a foe. The weak hand dissolves a legacy in a chorus of praise, while the cold will forges an empire in a silence of respect. He who cannot govern his own appetites is a slave, regardless of the weight of his gold. He is a man who builds his house on the shifting sands of now, instead of the bedrock of forever. You must be Tun-yun with your current desires, for every coin squandered on a fleeting whim is a soldier deserted from your future defense. Discipline is not a lack of desire. It is the calculated delay of gratification to ensure the permanence of power. While the vulgar man seeks to be liberal and generous, only to find himself poor and despised, the wise man embraces a reputation for meanness, for it allows him to remain solvent and formidable, without burdening his people with taxes of desperation. Look upon the specters of history for your instruction. Agacletus the Sicilian, who rose from the base station of a potter's son to the height of kingship not through goodness, but through 1,000 perils and a cold, decisive wickedness. Consider Caesar Borgia, whose cruelty brought peace and unity to the Romagna, proving himself more merciful than the Florentines, who allowed cities to be destroyed to avoid a name for harshness. They did not wait for the permission of the moralists. They seized glory through the unyielding execution of their will when the opportunity of fate appeared. They knew that if cruelty is to be used, it must be used properly, inflicted at one stroke to secure the state, rather than persisted in daily to exhaust it. As you manage your treasury and build your walls, never gamble your survival on the shifting winds of loyalty, for loyalty that is not anchored in interest is merely a debt waiting to be defaulted upon. Man is a creature of base instincts. He is ungrateful, fickle, and covetous of that which belongs to others. You must etch this painful lesson into your soul. Men forget the death of their father faster than the loss of their patrimony. Therefore, let no one find comfort in your kindness if they do not also find terror in your potential for poverty. Hold the strings of their benefit in your hand, and you shall hold their hearts. Let the strings slacken, and you shall find yourself alone in a den of wolves.
Conclusion. The grand final. Your choice. Now, my aspiring princes, the stage is set and the masks are removed. You must realize that the modern economic world is no polite tea party. It is a brutal arena where the hunter and the prey switch places in the blink of an eye. In this theater of gold, there is no neutrality, for he who does not strike is himself struck, and he who does not command is inevitably commanded. The marketplace does not reward your intentions. It only measures your positioning. You hold the choice in your trembling hands. Either become the proud lion who commands his territory through iron discipline and cunning strategy, or remain the fat lamb, marinating in the juices of lifestyle and credit, waiting for the wolves of the consumer system to tear you apart. The lion lives by his own rules. The lamb dies by the rules of others. One finds glory in restraint, while the other finds a gilded cage in his own appetites. Do not waste your breath praying for the favor of fortune, for she is a fickle mistress who loves only the bold and beats the cautious. Instead, prepare for the inevitable storms that sink the unprepared. If you do not possess the resolve to build a financial fortress for yourself, you shall spend your finite days laying the bricks of another man's empire. He who builds on the foundation of his own prowess stands firm, while he who builds on the debt of others constructs his own tomb. Remember this final decree as you step back into the light. The world judges the result. It never questions the means. If you succeed in amassing the substance of power, the very men who cursed your methods will be the first to bow before your achievements. Go forth now and grasp the reality of your destiny while the fools continue to chase the shadows. Our secret counsel concludes here.